us for this first social talent show where we'll be covering HR trends and tips. My name is Crystal Metz, and I'm the producer of the show as well as the head of marketing for UPMO, and I'll be your moderator today. So what's the social talent show, you might wonder? The social talent show is a thought leadership series developed by UPMO and talent culture designed to showcase radical thinkers on the topics of talent collaboration, talent mobility, HR, and social talent. We'll be hosting the Social Talent Show every second and fourth Wednesday of the month at 11 a.m. Pacific time, showcasing a new thought leader every week. This is also, today is actually Tuesday, which is a little bit off from our normal Wednesday Social Talent Show, but we wanted to kick it off on a Tuesday and also remind everyone that T-Chat is still also on Wednesday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So as part of the regular show, I'd like to introduce you to our hosts. First, we have Rob Garcia, the VP of Product at UPMO. Rob is a disruptor and innovator from Silicon Valley who's been building e-commerce, financial, and consumer-oriented web and social products for over 12 years. He is also a leading voice in the startup community, blogging, tweeting, mentoring, and speaking passionately about innovation, and more recently about social collaboration, career, and talent management. Rob, say hi.
Good morning, everyone. We're excited to be here. I guess good afternoon for the East Coast. Thanks for joining us. We're excited.
So we also have Megan M. Bureau, the founder of Talent Culture and T-Chat, the popular Twitter conversation about talent culture, future of work, and the intersection of social media, recruiting, and HR. Megan is a member of the National Association of Personnel Services, the Society for Human Resources Management, and several entrepreneurial organizations. Her thoughts are often quoted on top publications such as Forbes, CBS Money Watch, Glassdoor, Monster, and the HR Pub of your choice. Megan, say hello.
Hi, everybody. It's Megan M. Bureau here. I'm delighted to be here on our inaugural show, and I think we have a really, really fun show in store today. So tweet out there in the blogosphere. Thanks for being here with us. I'm very excited to be part of this new venture.
Great, thanks Megan. So a few housekeeping items before we start. All participants will be muted throughout the duration of the show. However, we're taking questions via the chat feature or via the live Twitter stream at #TChat. So feel free to chat live. The webinar will also be recorded and the video podcast will be available to you at socialtalentshow.com next week. So without further ado, I'd like to pass it over to our hosts, Rob and Megan.
Well, thanks, Crystal. Boy, isn't this exciting. Our very first episode of the Social Talent Show. We're thrilled to be here, folks. We're even more thrilled about our guest today, Yvette Cameron from Constellation Research Group, who has tons of good information on enterprise social HR and the future of talent management, or as I like to refer to it, the end of HR as we know it. Before we jump right into the exciting topic, though, a couple of quick things. First, I want to recognize the amount of work that our producer, Crystal, and everybody else here on the call today has put into this. I mean, it's not easy to put together a show like this, showcasing top leaders and disruptors in our space. So Megan and I get to have the fun, right, of grilling all these guests, and but Crystal has to do most of the work, and everyone else also has to pour into that as well. So thank you everyone for making the time to be here and for making the time to work on this. Second, a quick shout out to Megan and her social media team who are now tweeting like crazy, following and moderating this event over Twitter with the TChat hashtag. We're really honored to have you guys as well. For all of you following and listening live, feel free to drop your thoughts and questions on Twitter as well, and we'll be publishing a summary of the best tweets during the conversation on our website later on as well. So Megan, how are you doing? Are you excited or what?
I am super jazzed, actually, to be here on the Social Talent Show. As many of you guys may know about my background, I actually am a former choreographer and dancer. So when Rob brought up this idea to me, I said, oh my gosh, this just makes perfect sense. So I'm very, very excited for Talent Culture to be teaming up with UPMO and putting on this series of interactive online events. You know, as mentioned earlier, T-Chat, the World of Work Twitter chat, will still be live every Wednesday from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, but we certainly are going to be weaving in a special series Tuesday is today our inaugural show, as we mentioned, but every other day that we're going to be doing this is going to be on a Wednesday. And just so jazzed to be part of this and looking at the bleeding edge of HR, business, and social media. I'm in heaven. As a matter of fact, I'm in talent nirvana. So I'm feeling good today. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for joining us as a host. I am personally particularly very excited about Yvette's background because she brings all this experience and expertise from leading HCM and core HR functions. But Yvette's, in addition to that, Yvette's a trailblazer. I mean, she's in charge of keeping tabs on new entrants to the space, on the latest and greatest and most interesting HR technology. She's looking at trends in social, mobile, bringing your own device, etc. All the cool stuff that's happening in our space, and helping companies define meaningful strategies to embrace and leverage these trends. So welcome, Yvette, to our show. We want to start by asking you why you think embracing all these new trends and technologies is critical for organizations. Help us a little bit understand that. What's going on in talent management, and why is it important to embrace all these technologies?
Yeah, you bet, Rob. Thank you. But before I go there, first let me just say I too am really pleased to be here on the show today. I'm especially excited to be here on the very first inaugural event of the Social Talent Show. This is an area that I've been really, really passionate about for, well, basically for my whole career. I started many years ago. I was an early adopter, an early promoter of technologies and processes like employee and manager self-service. I'm really passionate. I kind of geek out, as Megan was saying, she's in talent nirvana. I kind of geek out over the confluence of processes and technologies and where those things really come together. So I'm very excited. There's tremendous shifts happening in business models. So there is a lot going on. The reason we're here today is to talk about all these changes that are going on in this space and causing some activity. It's really important to understand that the number one concern for CEOs, it's been and it always has been for the last few years, the number one concern is talent. Defining the right strategies around acquiring and relocating and developing and mobilizing and retaining your talent. It's critical to executing on business strategies. It's absolutely fundamental. And a lot of strategies fail. It's estimated about 70% of strategies fail because of people issues, lack of alignment, lack of engagement, and roughly 25% of plans are even abandoned or they're delayed before they even get started because of talent constraints. I mean, we've heard it before, people are the most important asset of an organization. And so isn't it a shame when you start looking at all of the stats and information out there at the level of disengagement of employees? And at any time, at any company, you can expect that about 2/3 of your workforce are looking for the exit. Whether it's actively looking or they're passively open to new opportunities, people are ready to leave your organization, and this number's on the rise. This number's up about 10% from last year, and it's an alarming fact that companies have to face up to. So what do you do, right? What can companies do with this? You can focus on, how do you bring promotions and better career advancement to people. Some drivers for the talent in your organization might be around having better recognition or having mentors. I mean, there are so many different drivers of, what's going to motivate people to stay engaged in your organization and remain with your company. Ultimately, companies have to develop the right strategies. They have to make sure that they've got strategies that are going to delight and inspire their workforce. And that's basically what we're talking about today. We're here to talk about the emergence of social technologies in the enterprise. We call it, kind of social finally goes to work. It moves out of the consumer base and goes to work. And so what are the forces of change that are driving this adoption of technologies and new processes? We're going to talk specifically about social talent management. So what are the components? How are processes changing? And we're going to drill into a couple of areas because honestly, folks, social talent management is a topic we could talk about for 5 hours and still not have it fully covered. So we're going to go deep into a couple of the core areas and save future conversations for later shows, and so we'll talk about those at the end, some additional use cases, and we'll set the stage for some future conversations. So let me go ahead and stop there. And Megan and Rob, I'm going to move and start talking then about some of these trends and the confluence of trends that are happening around people and technology. Is there any stage you wanted to set, though, before I move on as far as the agenda, or shall I go on?
Does Twitter ring a bell to you? Does that sound like a trend in your eyes? Anyone, laughter, anybody? Happy Tuesday! Tweet, tweet! That's my interjection here. What do you think? What do you think, Yvette?
I love it. And
do you love it?
Yeah, I do.
Because you're working your mojo. I tell you, this webinar is on fire right now. We are on fuego, and it's great to be here.
Excellent. And honestly, that's probably another trend we should talk about in the future, you know, the tweet streams, that kind of conversation taking place and taking over email. But we'll get there.
All right. Excellent. I'm waiting. I'm here.
So let me just drop in. And Megan, Rob, you know, I want this to be a conversation amongst the three of us, and I want to encourage people listening on the phone to ask your questions because, again, you know, this is about a conversation, and this whole show every 2 weeks roughly is about having conversations around technologies and processes and disruptive approaches to the old school way of business. So let's go ahead and make sure that we're bringing those questions forward. But I do want to talk very briefly. There are changes happening across three major spectrums: people, process, and technology. When you think about the people side, I mean, we've got so many things going on. There's 4 to 5 generations of workers in the workforce. The latest generations, a lot of people call them Generation C now, the connected generation. They're bringing a lot of expectations into the workforce around their ability to connect to each other and to information, their ability to get information any place, anytime, anywhere through mobile devices, smart pads, smartphones, etc., and engagement and access to information. How are they connecting to each other, sharing knowledge, creating knowledge, etc. And when you think about it, there's more than 80 million baby boomers are going to retire in the next 5 to 10 years. And those 80 million are going to be replaced by about 40 million Gen Xers. So when you think about that, we're going to have half the number of people replacing the outflow. Are we ready for that next generation of workforce and how we're going to manage the processes and getting work done? And even the way people work is changing, right? We're seeing the emergence of more contractors and freelancers. There's a move afoot to have much greater flexibility in the workday, the way that we are engaging with organizations to complete work and projects, etc. In fact, I saw a survey. It was from Kelly Outsourcing Group, and they did a large survey across the United States and found that 44% of active workers here in the U.S., think about this, 44% of all the workers in the U.S. classify themselves as freelancers or free agents or contractors.
No, wait, hold on. Really?
Yeah.
Should we do the really with the question mark? Well, that seems outrageous.
Yeah, it's an amazing stat. Now remember, Kelly is also looking at workers all the way down to the earliest age to work, right? So 16, 17-year-olds. So, and when you think about the numbers, right, the numbers of millennials, Gen Y, compared to the outgoing work of the baby boomers, I mean, it's a interesting fact. Now, I would a little challenge it too. That's saying almost half the workforce. But the main message I take away from that, Megan, is that the models are changing. The traditional way of who's working in our workforce and their expectations for flexibility are significantly changing. Thankfully, the technology is changing too. I mean, we're seeing tremendous growth in mobile and social adoption. I think we call it at Constellation the consumerization of technology. You know, mobile is bringing in real-time, anywhere, anytime access. Social is bringing in the collaboration and that new user experience very much focused on interactivity. And with all of this, there's a tremendous amount of growth of data coming in from all these different transactions and engagements and interactions happening oftentimes in the cloud. And so that's bringing new opportunities to companies.
Let me jump right in here, Yvette. This is fantastic. I mean, this is exactly what we're looking for. We're jazzed to have you. This is great. Let me make sure that I understand what you're saying. You're saying workforce is disengaged, new generation coming on board. They're more independent. The top-down talent management strategies just have failed in the past, and they're not going to work with this new environment. And it seems like social, mobile, access 24/7 to the work environment and it could potentially solve the talent management problem. Is that what you're trying to say here? Is that what you're leaning towards here?
I'm saying that social and mobile are huge, huge components of solving the problem. But remember, technology doesn't always solve the problem. Companies have to embrace the right processes. They have to have the right strategies and have the right culture and processes to enable success here. But the technology is absolutely a critical enabler of success in this new world. You know, I think what we should do is let's take a little poll here. Let me go ahead and launch the poll. So Crystal, if you don't mind, what is your organization's current approach to social business? Especially we're talking about here around talent management processes. You know, as people are voting, and Crystal, I'll leave it to you to tell me when you're going to close the poll, but as you're voting, we are, you know, again, we are seeing this tremendous influx of interest around mobile and social technologies, companies starting to embrace collaboration, and a lot of folks in the HR spectrum asking, how do we leverage this for performance management, for better employee retention, better employee engagement? How do we help employees feel a sense of commitment and loyalty, and how do we foster that through technology? And so, you know, really curious to see of those on the phone today, where are we at as far as adoption and talent management?
Okay, so
I'd like to just say, we are in an absolute perfect storm right now for HR's old ways. And when I say HR, yes, I'm including you recruiters out there too. And for new management paradigms that are emerging by what we now call social business. I mean, talent management right now is at the absolute center of this transformative phase of HR, and this is just super exciting. So I'm hoping we're going to see some interesting poll results. Everyone voting out there?
Yeah, I think we got the results. So let's take a look.
Awesome.
So Megan and Rag, I actually can't see the results. Perhaps you can share those with me.
All right.
Yes, we have the 38% is the biggest response here would be activity using throughout the organization. Activity using throughout the organization. We have 23%. We haven't really started yet. We have the next third and fourth place is beginning to formulate strategies for targeted usage at 15% and partially implemented but not enterprise-wide at 15%. And the last one is 8% ad hoc usage in several areas of the departments.
Wow, that's great. Those numbers are actually higher than I've seen in many other research, including our own. At Constellation, we've done a series of research of early adopters, and we saw some early usage, obviously in recruiting, which is where it's most prevalent, but really not a lot of adoption in HR, really the larger adoption across the enterprise. But to hear that you're actively using talent management or social talent management processes is fabulous, and almost 40%. To me, that's just really phenomenal. Well, so let's talk about it, right? So we talked about people and technology and processes and how we're at, to Megan's word, at the perfect storm. And I talk about at the confluence of all of that emerges this new opportunity, which is really social talent management. So you see the graphic here is really meant to depict, you know, we've got our very traditional HR-driven processes, but over time with the changes we just talked about is the emergence of this new technology, and it's characterized by things such as peer-to-peer workplace. I mean, this is how we work, peer-to-peer. We don't work, you know, necessarily person to role. I call Dave in IT, I call Ben over in product strategy when I have an issue. I'm working person to person. And overall, this social talent management is characterized by a sea change from command and control to open and engage. So from the top-down hierarchical processes, you know, putting those aside and really embracing more of the bottom-up and peer-to-peer and cross-siloed communication and interactivity. We're finding more and more that employees are able to self-organize their work and be self-directed around goals and projects, and yet to open and communicate with others in the enterprise to share information and to really collaborate and improve the way work is getting done to accelerate success in the organization. And we're finding that these social processes, especially in the area of talent management, as the processes emerge and the technologies to support them, the value starts coming when you're not focused particularly on a process, on a transaction, but more on business value, the evidence of what it is that you're delivering into the organization with the use of these tools. So, think about everybody loves the old performance review is dead. It's a horrible annual process, and yet as you start socializing that, the value you start bringing is greater insight into what's happening in your organization. Or, in the case of career management, when the processes themselves start evolving and shifting to bring greater value as opposed to just completing a checkbox and saying, I've done it. One of the hallmarks of social talent management functionality is that information and communication, it's transparent. So you are no longer communicating in silos and information being that locus of power in organizations. Culturally, organizations have to change and shift their focus to transparency, as I said earlier, away from command and control to more open and engaged. That fosters this transparency, and the technologies are making that available through activity streams and sharing of status updates and information and collaboration so freely. There are so many attributes and aspects of this, gamification, etc. So Rob, Megan, let me ask you, and stop here and say, in your experience, as you look at kind of what I've got here and what I've just said, how is this resonating with you and the customers that the clients that you've been engaging with?
I think it's resonating pretty clearly. I mean, I think people know that there's a perfect storm of HR activity happening. Social media is now. It's no longer something we need to talk about. It's something we need to actually engage in as leaders. It's happening in front of us. And I think the bottom-up and silo activity, the bottom is now turning upside down. The up is now turning the opposite direction. Perfect storm, as I said. I think you're starting to talk about gamification. I think many of my clients, many high-tech companies, particularly in the small to medium-sized corporate markets, are, still trying to make sense of gamification. I mean, we're still here on a live Twitter chat trying to make that happen. So I think we've got a ways to go, but I think social talent management is rapidly becoming socialized, and for that I say hooray.
Yeah, we see the same thing with our clients at Atmo. I mean, we have a good group of people who are already embracing these technologies and knowing that it's going to be transformative and change, and they know there's going to be a little bit of change management as well at the company level, but I think they're going all out for it. And we do encounter the other crowd as well, the ones that are not ready. This seems a little scary and too forward-thinking for them at the moment, but I think it just takes time and education. I guess that's one of the reasons why we're doing this show, too.
That's absolutely why we're doing this show, actually. There's so much education that still needs to happen in the marketplace with CEOs, with HR leaders and managers and recruiters and everybody that's touch-pointing human capital in what we like to call people. It's not that difficult, is what I like to say to, Mr. and Mrs. CEO. I'm one too, and, the more social we get, the more open we are to exploring where we are with innovation and spreading the message. And that's reputation, brand, influence, trust, all of those things that workplace culture is basically thirsty for. But, again, I'm a huge proponent of social. I don't think that's any surprise to anybody on this webinar or out in the Twitter sphere right now. We need to be there. We need to be there now. And again, I think gamification is super interesting from my perspective. I'm a secret tech nerd. Go figure. FYI, everybody. Nerd alert. But I think we have a ways to go still. I think we're still in education mode. I agree with you, Rob, completely.
Yeah, Megan, Megan, you bring up a point about the social and the connections, and it's really about acceleration, right? It's about getting to results better and faster. You know, if you think about the use of social technology commercial, why do we engage in social networks in Facebook and LinkedIn? It's because, you know, yes, we like to broadcast and publish information, but also because we are looking to innovate and to ideate, right? To build our ideas, get the benefit of input and suggestions and guidance from others, and really accelerate results. And when you bring that technology in-house, when you bring that to the work that people are doing, the ideas they're creating, you know, and you're able to, internally you're keeping it within the company walls, so the concerns about IP loss, etc., are not an issue. You're able to expand beyond the capabilities of the team that you're managing and truly leverage the wisdom of your entire enterprise, not just those on your team in marketing or in your particular business unit, but literally across the organization. And whether that process is around creating new products, growing the talent and developing the leaders in your organization, ensuring employee retention, social technology is all about enabling that greater mind share, getting to accelerated results, more flexibility, and really amplifying or improving those original concepts.
I agree. I think the one thing we need to be careful of is the word broadcast. In my eyes, I see broadcast as old school marketing and PR, not as new school, innovative workplace culture branding of leaders who are making key hiring decisions for talent and are touch-pointing people. I think we want to be very careful using that word, but I totally understand where you're coming from and get it. But I think, you know, that word broadcast, I don't know, I think we need to do away with it. I might be shaking things up a little bit here today, but I think it's more about authentic branding and communication along those lines. And I love every single thing you're saying, Yvette, and I just think we have something in common. We're all really excited about the confluence of social talent management right now. There's just so much happening.
It's got to be about engagement. I think you're right. It can't be broadcasting one direction. It has to be about engagement. But Yvette, tell us more about how you see the social transformation, the social technologies are transforming the existing talent management paradigm. I mean, I know you have a slide around here that talks a little bit about that. So I want to get into more details exactly how that happens.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, this isn't just about putting a social wrapper on current processes. You know, for transformation to really take place, leveraging social, the actual processes themselves need to evolve. We've already seen that in the space of social learning. You know, social learning has taken this concept of the formalized certifications, instructor-led training, and, you know, the occasional webinar, and has now moved it to this concept and this result of people who are creating content. You're bringing in the subject matter experts across the organization. They're creating content. They're sharing it. The training is happening real-time, online, mobile, etc. People are able to indicate this is good content. These are, you know, good session, good courses, etc. And really making it much more real-time and contextual, so that the training and the information and the knowledge, all of that is happening in context of the work you're trying to do, the job you hold, the projects you're managing, and so forth. And that kind of transformation is possible across each and every people process that you manage in your organization. I'm not going to go through the details of this slide.